It's the final qualifying session of the 2015 Blancpain GT season. We've got titles to be decided, and they will be decided here around the dunes of Zandvoort. We're just about half an hour south of Amsterdam on the Dutch coast. A fantastic historic circuit. It's been changed a little over the years, but the essence remains. But it's a chilly morning, 12.4 degrees the air temperature, track temperature just 13 degrees, and slightly different conditions to the ones that the drivers faced yesterday, where it was 17 degrees and 15 degrees. So the coolest running that we've had so far, a little bit windy as well, and that'll be a bit of a challenge for these drivers.
Welcome to Zandvoort. It is a race. Well, that's sorry to be so silly about it, but we are in the middle of the sand dunes on the coast of Holland. And there are a couple of brave fans who will come to Zandvoort come hell or high water. And at the minute the tide's out, so there's no high water. But here is a view of this 4.3 kilometre circuit. I think it's one of the great circuits of Europe. Built just in 1948. I mean, John Hoogenholtz, a visionary of race circuit design. 14 turns through the sand dunes. It is a shortened version of that original racetrack. Nevertheless, still fulfills the essence and the ambitions of what was a very futuristic layout back in those heady days of motor racing when it started up after the Second World War.
Yes, absolutely. The circuit extension is disappeared now. It's all a golf course out the back there. We went there the other day to see what parts of the circuits remain, but pretty much nothing. There you can see the cars, though, getting ready to take to this new course. And I say new, it was redesigned some years ago now, but there you can see all 16 of the cars waiting to take to the track. It'll be Q1, Q2 and Q3. It'll all be about getting into the top 8 for the pole position shootout. There's Robin Freins, the man who's leading the Blancpain Sprint Series Cup, and he has got 109 points. He's 8 points clear of Maxi Buch and Vincent Abril, who have 101, and Marco Seefried and Norbert Siedler in the Ferrari have 92. Now, no Laurens Vanthoor this weekend to partner Robin Freins after his accident last weekend in Misano, so Robin Freins will be joined by Christopher Mies, who is a very quick driver and has had a pole position already this season back in the Algarve, so that'll still be quite a pairing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very strong pairing whichever way you look at it. There is Christopher Mies just talking to one of the engineers, and he is an able substitute, if there ever could be such a thing, for Laurens Vanthoor, who, when he left Misano on the Saturday night, he was driven home in a motorhome. It took about 12 hours all the way from Misano up to Zolder, and he had a fracture to the fibula in his left leg, but then when they x-rayed him here in Holland, back in Belgium, they discovered there's 2 fractures on his hip as well, so any hopes that he had to be here, he was even prepared, you know, it was his left leg that was the damaged leg. He's even prepared to try and switch the brain to braking with his right foot, which of course he's never really done. He's a left foot braker by birth, and consequently that then was all dashed, and Christopher Mies brought in as the teammate to Robin Freins, and of course that number 1 Audi didn't race last weekend after the accident. Of course the car was unrepairable, the damage in the evening race, but the unrepairable for the principal race on Sunday.
This is the 333 Ferrari, and at the wheel this time is your own Bleekemolen. You can see now the ever-increasing list of drivers on the right-hand side on the back of the car there, because of the cars that compete in the Blancpain Endurance Series as well in that car, and they've now stuck your own Bleekemolen down at the bottom.
And I just wonder, just seeing Jerome, and obviously a local hero, legend, family are leg ends really in this part of Holland. Is this the first time we have seen Jerome in a Ferrari? Certainly in GT racing I'm talking about. He may have driven Ferraris in other events, but I mean historic events or something of that nature.
He has driven the GTE Ferrari. He's driven other spec Ferraris over in the States, but this is the first time he's driven a GT3 spec Ferrari 458.
Fundamentally he's familiar with the car. He had running here yesterday. They ended up I think 6th quickest in the second of the free practice sessions, and pole sitter last year, was that right?
Yeah, absolutely, for Grasser Lamborghini. Yep.
So, I mean, he was born here. I mean, you can almost take him around the racetrack, and, I mean, well,
he was doing the track walk yesterday, and, Thursday, wasn't it? And we said, do you still have to walk the track? He's like, no. I mean, you know, you can always learn stuff from a track walk, but when you've been here so many times, it doesn't make that much difference. Attila Abreu and Valdeno Brito there in the 77 BMW. They've had a good season, currently lying 4th in the championship, and will be wanting to hold on to that 4th place ahead of Stefano Telli and Stefan Rakelmi, who are just 10 points behind them. But waiting for the running to begin. A 15-minute session for Q1, then a 15-minute session for Q2, and then at the end of that it'll be the top 8 drivers that will go through to the pole position shootout. A couple of interesting things about the drivers selected for the pole shootout include Maximilian Buch back at the wheel for Bentley HTP after Vincent Abril did qualifying for the last couple of rounds, and also in the 333 Ferrari it is Norbert Siedler that they've opted to go for the pole position shootout, which I suppose makes sense. He's been in the car all year and a very quick racer, but home hero Jeroen Bleekemolen won't be taking part in the pole position shootout if the Rinaldi Ferrari gets through.
Well, let's hope the Ferrari does get through. I mean, it certainly had a very dominant weekend last weekend in Misano. One might say that, well, you'd expect a Ferrari to go well in a race in Italy, but the bigger test will come here in Zandvoort, an entirely different circuit to Misano circuit, where the car has got to go through, literally through the curves, through the sand dunes. Probably more of an aerodynamic influenced circuit than Misano is, and the straight in Misano was the dominant feature, and that's where the Ferrari's real strength lay. But let's get back to what's going on track here right now as the field makes its way out, and 15 minutes, well 13 minutes remaining.
Yep, so we've got Rakelmi, Nash out on the circuit, a couple of new entries at the GT Russian team. In the 71 car we've got Roman Mavlenov, who's racing alongside Marco Asma this weekend, which hands the Pro-Am Championship to Alexei Kadachev. He now cannot be caught at the top of the championship, so he is the Pro-Am champion of the season. And also in the 74 Audi there, you saw it's not going to be the Fjordbach brothers. One of the Fjordbachs is still there, Anders Fjordbach, but alongside him is Michael Markussen, and Anders Fjordbach is still in a battle over the Silver Cup classifications, because at the moment it's Jules Simkowiak leading that Silver Cup, but he's only 16 points clear of Thomas and Anders Fjordbach, so there's fights to be had there. There's Albert von Turnen-Taxis for the Reiter Engineering Lamborghini team. Found out yesterday he does an excellent Scottish accent, and he's getting ready to head out onto the circuit.
Well, when you come from European aristocracy, as Al von Turnen-Taxis does do, there's probably family lineage all the way through the entire European royal families, but he is a personality and a character and a very alternative kind of guy to the norm that you might see coming through the foundation ranks of motorsport. I mean, I can't see Al ever having driven a go-kart, or we call them karts today. Go-karts are an indication of your age. Also, another a Dutch driver here this weekend we haven't mentioned, also in the GT Russia team, is Indy Dungey in the number 70 Mercedes.
In the GT Russia car. No, I haven't yet. I was just getting there. Haven't done Nick Katzberg either. We'll do him in a minute too. We've got 6 Dutchmen racing here in Zandvoort. But yeah, great to have Indy Dungey here. He's very ambitious. He said he wants to get through to the final part of qualifying, the pole position shootout, the top 8, and that would be the first time this year that the GT Russian team would have been able to do that if he's able to do it. And he was quick yesterday in free practice 2. He ended the session 5th quickest, and the quickest non-Audi out there in that second session. But the quickest time we had overall yesterday was set by the Bentley, Vincent Abril and Maximilian Buch, a 38.0. Pole here last year was a 36.6, but that was in the summer and it was a little bit more pleasant, so we might not quite get that fast this year, but you're looking at sort of low 37s at least.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about Zandvoort is that in the summertime, when we were here last year, the temperatures were in the middle 20s. Now it's going to be probably low teens at best. Key is to get tyre temperature. I don't mind the cool air, because I quite like cool air because you get more dense air, which gives you that little bit more downforce, maybe a bit more draggy in the straight. And that in turn, if you can get the tyre temperature with the downforce, then you've got the opportunity to actually get some pretty quick lap times. But the key will be finding the sweet spot of the tyre and doing it when the tyre, if you're using the fresher or the freshest of the sets of tyres you have, it's that key point in the tyre's life when it's going to be absolutely giving you maximum grip. If you miss it, your times will suffer. So
here is Stefan Rakelmi, the Monegasque racer in the number 3 car, and he did a very good job in qualifying in Misano, but it's Stefano Telli who will be doing the pole position shootout if they make it through here today. and Rikami comes across the line and he does a 41.2. Quickest time we've had so far is set by Roman Mavlanov, who has done a 1 minute 40.1. Mavlanov, an experienced racer, has raced in other GT championships, has taken race wins in, for example, the GT Open series, but making the step up now to the Blancpain Sprint Series, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of performance he can get out of that 71 car. This, though, is the car that is second in the championship, Maximilian Buch and Vincent Abril. It's Vincent Abril at the wheel as we come now through the right-hander at Gerlach-Bocht and then down to the left-hander of Hugenholtz. Then we start to climb out through this very fast part of the circuit. I don't think it's all flat through here.
It should, well, it should be. I mean, this part here, we're coming up to the top of Skyblock.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was flat all the way.
Yeah, but up to here, it ought to be flat. Then obviously you go down a gear, bit of a break, and then the exit is a bit of a short sprint to they call Master Corner, and it's sort of a very, very long exit, and then it leads into a tightening apex that they just call it corner 9, and then up to corner 10. It's into 9 and 10 that on occasions you will see overtaking. It's very much conditional on the grip of a car at a given point. Usually it comes very much towards the end of a session, towards the end of coming up to pit stop windows, that's what I'm trying to say. And then down to Hans Ernst, this little chicane, again you can use lots of the curbing. But the exit curb, be careful of that if it's still damp from the overnight, heavy dew overnight. Slippery. Then into turn 13 called Humo, and Vincent Abril using all the track, and then to Arie Luijendijk, great Indy 500 winner and quickest part of the straight. This main straight is about half its original length. When the racetrack had its original configuration, the main straight was the focal point. Now it's more about acceleration rather than terminal speed.
So it's Bentley first and second at the moment, because Jules Simkowiak has, the other Dutchman I haven't mentioned, has gone quickest of anyone and the fastest time all weekend, 1 minute 38.081. So that's the quickest time we've had, and a good effort there from Simkowiak.
But he needs a big effort. After the incident at Misano last weekend, it was deemed that Simkowiak and Laurens van Voor were pretty much equally guilty, and both have received, or their cars have received, a 5-place grid drop. So whatever the 83 Bentley does in the next session, 2 sessions, they will have to face that 5-place grid drop.
Absolutely, but it is a penalty for the driver rather than the car. So as a result, Christopher Mies and Robin Freins won't have to serve the 5-place penalty that was handed to Van Thorp.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
So yeah, wherever these guys qualify will be where they qualify. This is Christopher Mies, who's at the wheel of the number 1 car, which is, as you may have spotted, it's the number 2 car that's been running all season with the yellow flashes, but because the number 1 car that had been used all year got wrecked, they decided to stick with this one, and the number 2 car now is the rebuilt car that isn't actually owned by WRT. It's owned by Jean-Michel Bart, what is now the number 2 car, and he ran it in the GT Sports Club, the new SRO championship for gentleman racers. And yeah, Jean-Michel Bart owns it. WRT said, do you mind if we borrow it for Zandvoort? We'll totally deconstruct it, build it back up again, and it should be absolutely fine. But for security reasons, they feel like they want to just stay with the car that's ran reliably all year in the hands of Christopher Mies, has had a pole position in the hands of Christopher Mies, and has now come across the line to go 3rd fastest of anyone in the hands of Christopher Mies. And Simkowiak has improved again to do a 37.6, so the Bentley's looking quick here. Now let's see what the Ferrari of Bleekemolen can do.
So we've got personal best 1st and 2nd sector. So the 333 goes up to 4th place, so Jerome Bleekemolen doing pretty strong job. He is a go-to guy if you want to have a GT driver anywhere in the world, and great success. The driver actually this weekend I'm going to be most interested in of all will be in that number 2 Audi. That's Nicky Thiem, who really impressed me, especially in the Sunday morning stints, as we look at Norbert Siedler and
Vadim Kogai alongside him.
As just to go back to Nicky Thiem, he was in the car in Spa 24 hours on this sort of 7, 8, 9 o'clock stint, and was outstanding. And then he was actually put back into the car not very long after he had vacated it, because he did such a good job. The team needed that kind of performance to keep the Audi in contention. So he, to me, was a guy that was really driving himself into a future Audi seat, should there be one available.
Absolutely. So Kogai chatting to Norbert Siedler. Misa's just done a very fast first sector as well. So the top 3 at the moment covered by 0.03 seconds. So that's how close it is. This, meanwhile, is Sean Walkinshaw as we go on board with the English, Scotsman, isn't he? Walkinshaw.
Well, born in England, his dad's Scottish and his mum was from Belgium.
But he wears the Scottish flag on his belt, and he's supporting Scotland in the rugby. That's for sure.
Oh well, another one of those, is he?
As he comes now towards the final corner in this Nissan, and this is going to be a perfect track for the Nissan compared to somewhere like Misano or the bigger Grand Prix circuits. But they're still hopeful of a strong result. Across the line comes Walkinshaw, and he goes 9th quickest at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, this has been an ever-improving package in the last 3 races or so. So Sean Walkinshaw just giving it his outing, then it'll be into the hands of Craig Dolby, and as you just pointed out, Audi leads the pack now. Kubiak, who had been dominant for the first 13 or so minutes, has just been eclipsed by 20,000ths of a second by
Christopher Mies.
Chris Mies.
So we've got 3 minutes to go till the end of Q1. Usually Q1 doesn't particularly count for too much because the quicker drivers with less fuel get in for the second run, and we tend to get our top 8 for qualifying through that. But we'll wait and see what happens here as we see the 70 car out there, which is in the hands of Alexei Kadachev, the new Pro-Am champion of the Blancpain Sprint Series season. And he's out there in the GT Russian Mercedes SLS in maybe the final appearance for an SLS that we see in Blancpain. You never know. Might have the new AMG lurking next year.
Yeah, pretty cool looking bit of kit is the AMG. It's a little bit more, it's just a more contemporary car than the SLS. I'm sure, no doubt, it will be no less effective. Of course, the SLS, I think, didn't it win the 24 hours of Zandvoort earlier this year?
Potentially.
I think it may well have done. Sort of this is a magnificent 24-hour car. Not maybe at its best on this track in a 1-hour sprint, but nevertheless, you know, it is a great car to be in.
Yep, won the Spa 24 a couple of years ago in the hands of Bernd Schneider, Maxi Buch and Maxi Goetz. And this is the ISR Audi, which is usually shared by the Fjordbach brothers, but today it's one Fjordbach brother and Marcus Markussen, who's a young Danish single-seater racer who's raced in sort of, you know, your Formula Renault Euro Cups and that kind of thing. And now he's decided to come and try out GT racing this weekend as he comes across the line, and he sets a 1:40.9, so he remains down in 14th position overall. 2 slowest men at the moment who are a bit of a way off the pace are Albert von Ternataxis and Nicky Meyer-Melnroth, but that looks to me as though they just haven't, actually they've only just done their first flying lap out of the pits, so that'll be why.
Well, it indicates to me that they're using fresh tyres, and there's no point in going out and just tearing around at the beginning of the track session. Wait until the track potentially is at its best, which it should be now, as Vincent Abril brings the Bentley into the pit lane. So 3rd place for Avril, behind teammate Simkowiak, and 38,000th of a difference. Second, Simkowiak came in for a fair amount of flack, probably justifiably, as party to the incident with Van Thor. Both of them were judged to be at fault, but he's bounced back strongly with that 2nd quickest time.
Absolutely, very impressive stuff from Jules Kobiak. Cacapueno 5th quickest for the BMW team, so that's a good lap from him. 1.7 seconds down there. The top 4 are there, and then it's split, but sounds like those two talking in German. So no listening in there for Bleekemolen and Norbert Siedler. And it was a great weekend for them in Misano, as we've said, because they weren't really in championship contention. It was all about the Audi and the Bentley, but just shows you what one perfect weekend can do.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I'm thinking back to it when I did the interviews after the Sunday's race. I said to Norbert, that was a bit of a walk in the park for you, as he was sweating like a racehorse. I think he was almost affronted that I suggested that it was an easy drive, and he said, no, I had to push really hard, and I was on my toes for the entire stint I was in the car. But certainly great teamwork by Rinaldi to get the car turned around, and a great job by Seefried and Seidler, and used the strengths, and that was clearly what their intention was. They had a car which was good straight line speed, they focused on that, and they were able to make use of it.
So that's the end of Q1. We've got about 6 minutes till qualifying 2 starts. That'll be the battle to get into the top 8 for the pole position shootout, and then it will be the pole position shootout subsequently after that. And it's Christopher Mies who ends the first session quickest. He and Robin Freitz hoping to take, well, Robin Freitz anyway, hoping to take the championship as Marcus Markussen gets out of the car. Sorry, Michael Markussen, my apologies. And Fjordback gets into it. And if Robin Freitz doesn't win the championship this year, it'll be the first time he hasn't won a championship he's entered for the whole season since his karting days. He's never entered a full season championship and not won it while racing cars. Astonishing stuff from Robin Freitz.
Well, he is an outstanding young guy, and it's, you know, everything he's done in his single-seater career has been, as you mentioned, Jack, has been stellar. He's now moved into GT racing, and I think probably for the first time he's probably making a living out of being a racing driver, because very often in the case of single-seater championships, you're doing it just to get yourself established. But once you've done so and you can move into other categories, you know, at some point you've got to pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he didn't. That's why his single-seater career stopped, because he had, you know, no money at all, basically. Yeah, great to see him here in the Blancpain Sprint Series and in the overall Endurance Series, because he can still wrap up the overall Blancpain GT Series as well. But we'll talk more about that in a moment, because here's a look at the results from the end of Q1. Sorry, the points. Robin Freitz and Laurens van Thor then 109 points, 8 points clear of Vincent Abril and Maximilian Buch, and Freitz and van Thor 17 points clear of Seefried and Seidler. So this is the Sprint Series classifications, and that's really the tightest championship that we've got to be decided here. It'll be the Audi, the Bentley, or the Ferrari, with the BMW there in 4th place. Attila Abreu and Valdeno Brito slipping out of contention after really after Algarve, where they didn't have a particularly strong weekend. Enzo Eid and Christopher Mies, they're down in 6th place, and Mies will be hoping a strong weekend here will move him up above Enzo Eid. Enzo Eid couldn't be here this weekend. That's why you've got 2 new drivers in the number 2 car, Frederic Vervisch and Nicky Tim, who we were talking about earlier on. Then further down, Winkelhock and Melnoff would like to finish the season with a couple of points. Cacabueno and Sergio Jimenez have been very frustrated. They feel they've had a lot of bad luck this year, especially on the run down towards turn 1, because the BMW tends to qualify mid-pack and then race better than it qualifies. Frank Stipler and James Nash, 16th in the championship. Again, they will be looking to end the season well. And then you've got Max van Splunteren with 2 points and Marco Asma with 2 points as well. And so at the end of qualifying 1, Christopher Mies is the quickest man of anyone, a 1 minute 37.669. But we tend to see the quicker qualifying times coming in the second session. Jules Simkowiak, though, very impressive performance from him, and they've put Max van Splunteren in the car for Q2 and Q3 if Bentley manages to get through, and that could be a bit of a frustration for Simkowiak if van Splunteren doesn't quite have this pace, because let's face it, Simkowiak's gone quicker than Vincent Abril in that session. Very impressive stuff. Jeroen Blekemolen finishing the session 4th quickest, half a second back. We've got a few little jumps there, haven't we? We've got the Audi and the Bentleys, and then we've got half a second to the Ferrari, then we've got another second back to kind of everyone else, but it's only the first segment of qualifying, so there's not too much you can read into that.
Certainly it's the biggest spread we've seen probably all season, although as you say, we've still got 2 more qualifying sessions to go. But nevertheless, normally you see a half a second covering at least the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Nicky Melnoff and Albert von Turner Taxis didn't do many laps really, because they figure they may as well save the tyres, because that man, Marcus Winkelhock, is one to watch out for. Very quick driver and very quick around here at Zandvoort. So will he be up at the front? You'd be expecting him to get through into the top 8, but it's a very competitive field, and getting into that top 8 is very difficult, as Laurens van Thor and Robin Freitz found out last week in Misano, and that was really what started their whole downfall, was the problems they had in qualifying. They had to replace the engine after it because they had some kind of technical problem, and that's what put them at the back and having to fight through the order when the incident happened. Yes,
I mean, there's an argument from both sides, two diametrically opposite opinions. And you know, the Bentley, the HTP view is that when you've got a driver starting in the pit lane, fresh engine, everything, favourable tyres and whatever, coming through forcefully, you know, at what point, and as the outcome, I think, of the accident indicated, your two drivers, two immovable objects getting together. Very, very big accident indeed for Laurens Vanthoor. One of the biggest accidents I think we've seen in Blancpain outside of what occurred at Spa 2014, and the engine literally flying through the air. It was a pretty horrific sight, and unfortunately injury to Laurens Vanthoor. Jules Simkoviak has come back strongly, as is Bentley, second and third quickest.
Absolutely. As far as the overall Blancpain GT title is concerned, which is the combination of sprint and endurance, Laurens Vanthoor and Robin Freins are 27 points clear at the top of that championship, with only 33 points still available because the pole position point doesn't count in that. So they've kind of pretty much wrapped it up, unless, or well, they haven't. Robin Freins has it kind of wrapped up, unless he has another nightmare weekend. So that'll be one to keep an eye out on as well. So Q2 gets underway, another 15-minute session, and it's all about getting into the top 8 to go through to the pole position shootout from 9th position downwards. That'll be the grid order, as you see there. Number 1 car of Robin Freins putting on his helmet, and hasn't raced here since 2011 in Formula Renault 2 litre. Ended race 1 in the gravel trap at turn 1, and ended race 2 somewhere else in the wall, so doesn't have a particularly great record here.
Yeah, but I think, you know, Robin Freins is a professional driver. Christopher Mies is giving him some thoughts about the Audi. I mean, the Audi is a great race car, but it is one of those sort of knife-edgy cars that when it's in its zone, it is really, really good. Until you get it there, you've just got to be careful. So Robin Freins found that out in his first event of the year back at Nagaro, when he got caught out on pretty much his first flying lap, and I think he's obviously moved on and learned a great deal since then. But it's nice to see Christopher Mies integrating into the team and playing a role of team player. An interesting thing looking at this Audi, important to make this point, Audi, the seat in the Audi is a fixed position seat, so any adjustments there, you can see adjustment on the steering column, or if you've got a variation in driver sizes, in other words, the height of two drivers is different. In the case of Mies and Freins, they're probably identical. But Audi, after an incident about 4 or 5 years ago, when Hans Stritzel Stuck, my old teammate back in the 70s, was doing one of his comebacks, as he often does, you know, more comebacks than Frank Sinatra, and he had a big shunt at Nürburgring. At that point, Audi were fitting seats to their cars with a seat adjustment, and the adjustment, the violence of the accident was such that the seat moved, and it allowed Stuck's head to hit the roll cage, I think, on the inside of the car, and he got a severe head injury, which he recovered from fully. And from that point forward, Audi said, we're not going to have adjustable seats in our cars, we're going to have a fixed seat. The seat is so rigid, I tell you, the whole car could fall around you and the seat would not move. So that's one of the key elements of the Audi that they've learned from experience. So in the case of Laurens Vanthoor, the one thing that in that very violent accident that saved him from even further injury was the fact that the seat did not move. And I think I would be very favourably inclined to make that a regulation for all forms of racing, particularly in GT racing or in LMP1, for example, where you do get varying sizes of drivers. Just have a fixed seat and let them use seat inserts.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, because they're one of the few teams you see when the pit stop comes in the Audis, you have to have the seat inserts. Everyone else is able to slide around. So this is Nick Katzberg out on the circuit, the 88 car, the Lamborghini. They competed in a national championship race here a couple of weeks ago and ended up, I think, second in the race in the end. So they are confident in the Lamborghini. Started second on the grid here, I think, last year, the Reiter team, when it was Peter Cox and Stefan Racina, their two drivers. So let's see what Katzberg can do. He comes across the line. Quickest time we've seen so far, a 37.669. And Katzberg straight in there on his first lap out with a 38.3. So that bodes well for the Lamborghini. And there is Laurens van Thorp. Yeah, good to have him here. But, I mean, it must be an incredibly disappointing place to be.
Yes, I mean, obviously everything started to go wrong when they had to change the engine. But nevertheless, the key to the sprint race on the Saturday evening, it was a nighttime race, was all about getting position. So as they go into the race on Sunday, you're starting with a chance to really wrap everything up. And there, the Ferrari looking a little bit twitchy just as it turned in to the penultimate corner. The Kumo curve, the back end, didn't look securely planted. But fastest first sector, nevertheless. Let's see where this 333 Ferrari is going to win. Second quickest, Norbert Siedler. And
Winkelhock is the quickest man of anyone, and there's Max van Splunteren off and in the gravel trap, and that is down at turn 9, sorry. And well, we were saying, weren't we, Simkoviak showed great pace, and if van Splunteren can't match it, that'll be frustrating, and the red flag is out.
Yes, it's in a part of the racetrack where to get to the car principally is the reason for the red flag. To get it removed, there is the snatch vehicle, and
it'll be a very short red flag, but yes, better to get them out.
Yes, but what way they drag the car back is a question whether they drag it back onto the racetrack or whether they drag it back. So again, a mistake, coldish tyres, and just pushing a little bit too hard. Of course, van Splunteren being Dutch, the very tall, look, what she thinks he's like. The car
out.
It's bedded into the gravel.
He's frustrated, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely, and rightly too. I mean, literally on your out lap, to go and do something fundamental like that is, well, let's say, I think there will be a few words spoken in the team.
Yeah, less than ideal.
So he'd just gone through the first sector, literally, on his, whether it was his out lap or whether it was his
I think it was his first timed lap, but nevertheless, Max van Splunteren in the gravel trap. So that car, which showed great pace throughout the weekend so far, won't be taking part in the remainder of the session, because he is in the gravel trap and everyone else will pull back into the pits. So Marcus Winkelhock was the man who set a quick time out there, 37.8. 37.8 as well from Norbert Siedler. No one else had really set a good time. There's Jules Simkoviak, who will be very disappointed, because he'll know now that they'll have to start the qualifying race from near the back, and not super easy to overtake here at Zandvoort. Not easy to overtake on any track, but yeah, the Bentley about to be dragged out. A different Bentley. It's not a rebuilt one after the accident last weekend. They've had to not rebuild that one just yet. Not enough time, so they've had to grab another that they use in other championships, the HDP team.
Yeah, the trouble is that the Bentley's got to be returned to Great Britain, but not just to Great Britain. It's got to go up to the bit of Great Britain, the most northwesterly part. I mean, it's within spitting distance of the Scottish borders, and you get to Dover, and then you've got almost another day's drive to get all the way up, and it goes up the dreaded M6 with all its inherent and whatever problems. So just to get that car turned around would have been virtually impossible. So they just took a car. They've got a variety of cars, HTP. Let's have a look. Oh, he hit the car. What did he do? Not only did he go into the gravel, he went off on the left. He actually damaged the right, so the left front. That's what he was looking at, was the left front damage. Yeah. That was a strange one. He must have just got a little bit, probably got a left rear wheel in the grass, and the car then took a bite. I wouldn't have too many close-up shots of Jules. I think that's probably not his best view, is it?
So we got the red flag out here at Zandvoort with 10.5 minutes to go, and after that incident for the 83 Bentley, and Simkoviak, who will be so frustrated with that. But it's Marcus Winkelhock who looks quick at the moment. Marco Asma as well at 38.1 for him. So the Mercedes SLS is looking stronger here this weekend than we've seen so far. And there is the car, still beached in the gravel, but I think they're going to drag it out onto the track.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the lesser of the two evils is to get the cable attached to the tow hook on the front of the car and drag it back towards the racetrack with the resultant gravel, or it's just in an awkward position. for that snatch vehicle to take it up. So obviously, well, not obviously, one is assuming that when Spluntrun came out of what they call master corner, it's a strange name for a corner, and probably got the left rear, or certainly the left side of the car on the grass, went a bit sideways, then snapped back and then shot into the inside. And
I think it's named after the Formula 3 Masters race that they
that used to be almost the premier Formula 3 event of this season.
It was on this weekend here. It was with us last year actually, and Max Verstappen went on to win it. Didn't have as many entrants as it has done in the past, but
it used to be the Formula 3 event of the season, even eclipsing Macau because of Macau's anomalies of being a freaky racetrack. But the Zandvoort Masters was absolutely the race for Formula 3. Almost, well, but it was the best round of the championship.
So there is the car, and there is Craig Dolby at the wheel of the Nissan. And did he set a lap time yet? No. So 8 drivers set a lap time. Only 3 really set a sort of competitive one, as Dolby waits in the car for the red flag to come in, which shouldn't take too long, to be honest, because it looked as though that car was pretty much off the circuit. So, well, yeah, the session will restart in 5 seconds' time. So, a little bit more urgency now as well. You've got 5 seconds, mate, to get off.
Well, it's just they've got to get that car behind the barriers before they can let this.
Yeah, it says session will restart at 10:47, but which was 10 seconds ago now. But maybe that was a little ambitious. Something happened out there, and now the car is back behind, and the green flag does go out. So
yeah, but also has the snatch vehicle got to get back into its original location, or will it drive around behind the barriers? Well, there we are. The track has gone green.
Yep. So first out is Stefan Ortelli, Formula 1 winner. As he comes down into Tarzan, the first corner here at Zandvoort, which is very heavily banked, and then there's just so much undulation on this circuit, and it's no coincidence, is it? All of the best circuits in the world have got this undulation. You think of here, you think of Brands Hatch, you think of Spa, you think of even going back to the Nordschleife, you think of Suzuka. And I don't understand why you don't just build a new circuit with undulation, then it'll be great.
Well,
but anyway,
you haven't mentioned my great favourite circuit, Monza, flat as a pancake, basically.
Well, yeah, okay, that's true.
That's the exception.
But that's atmosphere, isn't it, rather than track?
That is total atmosphere.
So out onto the circuit now goes the 84 car of Maximilian Buch.
Nice one, Maxi, cut across the exit. I'm not sure what the ruling is on...
You are allowed to cut pit exit.
Yeah, because it is an area where drivers have been caught out both on the entry and on the exit of pit lanes.
A thumbs up from Norbert Siedler. I'm not sure if that was to us, actually, or to whoever's behind the cameraman at the moment, but he's not looking like he's ready to go out on circuit. This is the number 2 car, which is now in the hands of Nicky Tim, and it is a bit confusing because it's got the livery of the number 1 car.
Yes, which we're familiar with.
But that's essentially because this is the new car that's been built up, and they couldn't be bothered, but it didn't make sense to swap the liveries over on both. So they just put the number 1 livery on the number 2 car. So a bit of an odd one, because that is the car we've become so used to seeing running at the front all season. But that is the number 1 car this weekend. Robin Freins now at the wheel here in Zandvoort. And he was quicker than Christopher Mies in both of the free practice sessions yesterday. And so that'll be why he is out there in the car, looking to Q2 and hopefully into Q3 from his point of view.
It's interesting though that in the final race of the championship that Robin Freins is actually the senior driver in that car, the driver where the team will look to for all the guidance and feedback. Christopher Mies, who came in and did a really outstanding job, I felt, in Misano, who is again a driver who is in and out of Audis for different championships and different circuits throughout the year. A little bit of again, just it's this tire temperature thing, and again running curbs before the tire's fully up to temperature. Max Buch just getting a little wobble coming through Kumo, about to go on to a flying lap with Nicky Katzberg coming out of the Lamborghini, and Katzberg sees him coming, lets him go through cleanly, which is good etiquette on the part of the Dutchman.
On board we go with the 84 car then of Maximilian Buch into Gerlach, and then down to Hugenholtz. which is turn number 3. Tuck in very early there and run the inside all the way around. It's like a mini carousel, isn't it? Gets on the curb and back end steps out just a little.
Yeah, you want to try and keep it hooked in as much as you can, then flat out up through these wonderful sweeping curves, then up to the top there's that skylock, and then this was, to me, one of the outstanding corners on the circuit. Was bumpy in the middle of it, and then suddenly, before you realise it, you're on the brakes into Masters. And it's there we think that we saw Von Splinteren getting the Bentley roll wrong.
Yep, and the snatch vehicle has returned, actually, hasn't it? It's gone around the back. So Maximilian Buch then 4 tenths down in the first sector. Back end is looking pretty lively.
It is lively. It looked lively as it came through the Kumo corner of the previous lap. Let's watch and see what it's doing coming down into the chicane.
Best of anyone in the middle sector so far. As he comes out now towards the final 2 corners. This corner, a very important one, because it's the one that takes you onto the last corner in the straight, because the final corner at Ari Luijendijk, in theory, is pretty much flat out, but you're already arriving there in 4th gear, flat out through there and across the line. So let's see what Maximilian Buch can do. It was a slow first sector, and as a result it's a 38.133. Here's a look at a replay of Buch, and you'll just see the back end just drifting away from him really as he came through turn 10.
It just gets on the power, and there just that little bit of instability.
Yeah,
looked much better through the last 2 corners on this flying lap, Laurens van Thor, and really what a disappointment. On top of which, of course, he's been sidelined with those fractures, which will take a few days to heal.
But this is Robin Freins, who's looking very, very quick. A good first sector, fastest of anyone in the middle sector. What's it going to be as he comes across the line? It is a 1 minute 36.9. Quickest time of anyone by a country mile. Quickest time we've seen up to then is a 37.6.
Yeah, Marco Asmer in the Mercedes was, at that point, had been quickest on the 37.3, but now 4 tenths of a second is the improvement. Back to Craig Dolby.
So that's only 3 tenths slower than the pole position time last year from Robin Freins. So very good lap from the Audi R8, but Norbert Siedler has gone quicker in the first sector by 2 tenths of a second. Indy Donchi jumps up to 3rd quickest. Very good performance. Been really impressed with his pace all weekend. It would be wonderful to see a GT Russian car in the pole position shootout. Here, meanwhile, is Craig Dolby about to come across the line for the always evolving Motorsport Nissan team. 3rd quickest, 1 minute 37.5. Siedler's gone quickest in the middle sector as well, though, so keep an eye out for that 333 Rinaldi Ferrari. Here he comes towards the penultimate corner. Gets it tucked in, takes a lot of curb on the inside line, and then flat out through the final corner at Ari Luijendijk.
Well, he's doing the right thing, getting the blend of the exit from Kumo, and just the sweet spot into the final corner of the Luijendijk corner. Goes quickest, 36.7 by just over 1/10 and a half of a second. Good effort by Norbert Siedler.
Won't suit the Ferrari, this track, that's what they said. Too much aero.
Imagine how quick it would be if it did suit the Ferrari.
Yeah. Absolutely. So here is Robin Freins again, who has improved in Sector 1. Oh, that's not the place to have a bit of opposite lock coming through the final corner. And he's improved in Sector 1. His middle sector's not really at the games, at the races, I should say, and he's 7 tenths slower.
Yeah.
So Siedler quickest, Freins 2nd quickest, Nick Katzberg 3rd, Maximilian Buch 4th quickest then at the moment for the Bentley team. This is the 77 car, which is in the hands of Valdeno Brito at the moment, the BMW Team Brazil racer.
Yeah, that looks. I mean, the car looks planted. It lacks the straight line speed to balance the level of downforce and grip that the car can generate. But I mean, it looks as secure and stable a car through the final 2 turns as anything out there. So the Ferrari on a circuit that they were suggesting mightn't suit the car, but I think once you get that momentum from 2 successes just a week ago, it's amazing just how much more that gives a driver and a team. So 36.750, 0.172 of a second quicker than Robin Freins. So currently the only 2 car driver pairings that have broken the 107 second per lap barrier.
The top 8 now are all quicker than anyone managed in Q1, so this will be the top 8 from Q2 that will progress to the pole position shootout. This is Indy Donchi then, as he comes through Skyvlak and down towards the Masters Bosch. It's a tricky little left kick, that, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's on it. I mean, you can just see the way he was coming out of Skyflock and then got the car in. So this is a strong lap. Currently we're looking at midway through the second sector. So it's about being, you know, aggressive, forceful, but not overdriving. And he's making a lot of good use of this Mercedes. I mean, that you could just see the body language of the car. It's nice for a car to have a driver who's in control, and that's what Indy Dungey is doing right now. I hope I don't put the curse of the commentator on him.
It hasn't actually been a great lap for him because he's just less than a second slower than Norbert Siedler up at the front so far. So I don't think this will be the one for Indy Dungey. He might get another run. Siedler and Frantz are both in the pit lane and don't look like they're going to be going out again. They feel comfortable that they've done enough to get through to the pole position shootout. At the moment, Indy Dungey is on the bubble in 8th place.
Yeah, that last lap was at 1:38.197, which is, well, half a second or slow off. What is this, 8th quickest or 8th position lap time.
So a minute and a half left, and these guys are now heading over the line to try and consolidate their positions in the top 8, but they're all running quite close to one another.
Yes, Stefano Telli in the number 3 Audi, he's struggling. Frank Stipler, number 4, is in 10th, and you know, these are unusual places. Telli 8th, Stipler 10th, you normally
Winkelhock 11th.
Winky 11th, well, I know it's...
Through the final corner comes Vinky, and let's see whether he's done personal bests in sectors 1 and 2. Is this going to be enough to get him up into the top 8? Ortelli's just jumped up into 8th position. Winkelhock comes through and goes 5th quickest, so pushes Ortelli down to 9th, out of the top 8 for the time being. And it's Craig Dolby who's the man on the bubble. There is the Phoenix Audi team watching on. Siedler, Frantz, Katzberg, Buch, Winkelhock, Asma team, and Dolby the top 8 at the moment.
Well, his first sector time is off the pace. Oh no, 43.4. It's off the pace certainly, and he's cruising now.
Yeah, so I think that's it for Craig Dolby. He's not going to manage to get back.
Actually, it was just, I think that we just caught him in the turn 10 at the moment.
1.2 seconds down.
Yeah, he's well off. Yeah, so
he's half a second down on his time, 2/3 of the way around the lap. So this isn't going to be improvement from Dolby. He's going to have to hope that no one else is able to jump him. And at the moment, to be fair, no one else has done personal bests in the first or second sectors. So
Stipler is the only one potentially, but have to wait and see. He's done a 43.5 first sector, 25.9 second sector. So Stipler might, if he completes this lap. But he's yet to tell. Well, he's actually in the pits anyway. So.
Yeah, so Stipler's still out there. No, he's just come into the pits now too. So the number 8 car of Walkinshaw and Dolby is going to be going through to the pole position shootout then, by the looks of things. Yes, no one else is able to get through. So it'll be Norbert Siedler in the 333 Rinaldi Ferrari, Robin Frantz in the Audi, Nicky Katzberg in the Lamborghini, Max Buch in the Bentley, Marcus Winkelhock in the Audi, Marco Asma in the Mercedes, Nicky Thiem in the Audi, and Craig Dolby in the Nissan, that will all be going through to the pole position shootout. And that means that it's only a BMW that we haven't got in the top 8. Every other brand is represented in the pole position shootout, which will be starting in 7 minutes time from now. And pushing hard there, that is Philippe Salaquada, and well, it says on here he's in the pits. So
I think it was just a replay of him dropping the wheel off the exit of turn 10.
Okay, so all the cars are back into the pit lane now then, and well, battle on at the front, isn't it, with Siedler and Frantz, the two in the first and third place men in the championship, in first and second. But then Max Buch about 0.4 of a second back from them at the moment. And it was Max Buch who set the quickest time for Bentley all weekend. And he was the quickest of the two drivers, as I say, in free practice 1, which was the best time set by the Bentley. They managed a 38.0, and in this session they've managed a 37.2. So they've improved by some 0.8 of a second. There's Jeroen Blekemolen.
Yeah, Allard Kalf, well-known Dutch personality, motorsport personality, racing driver, commentator with me in Eurosport in the early 90s, into horses now, and this particular form of horse competition he's into. loves his motorsport. Got Zandvoort written through him like a piece of rock.
Yeah, great to have him here.
Yes. Well, he will be. I mean, even if there's nothing here,
He'll be here.
he'll be here. I mean, he is a legend in Dutch motor racing circles, and a genuinely good guy, which is, not often you can say the same thing.
So it's the 333 Ferrari that's quickest of anyone. 1 minute 36.750. Pole position last year, set by that man you own, Blancpain in the Lamborghini, was a 36.6. So looks as though we may well be up for matching that. The number 3 car of Stefan Ortelli is pushed back into the pit lane, and he doesn't make the cut. He's 9th quickest of all, and it's got to be frustrating when you're how much slower? Only 0.6 of a second slower, but frustration for Ortelli because he has won this sprint championship back in 2013. He and Laurens Vanthoor won what was then the FIA GT Series, and the 4 car is out as well. So let's have a look at the combined results of qualifying, and it'll be the top 8 of these that go through to the final pole position shootout. The Rinaldi Ferrari, the number 1 championship leading WRT car, Reiter Engineering Lamborghini, then the Bentley HTP machine. So we've got 3 brands in the top 4 positions, and then the Mercedes SLS. I think that's the first time we've had a Mercedes getting through to the pole position shootout from the GT Russian team. Great lap from Marco Asma. And then we got the Belgian Audi Club, Team WRT there in 7th place. 8th place for the always evolving Motorsport Nissan. Then further down from that, this will be how the grid will start. Ortelli and Rakelmi will start in 9th place on the grid. Indy Donchi and Alexei Karachev in 10th place. They were just a 10.5 away from getting through to the final pole position shootout. James Nash and Frank Stippler in 11th position, and 12th place Sim Kowiak and Van Splinteren. But look at that, the top 12 covered by a second, incredibly tight. 13th place and 14th place for the 2 BMWs. They're a little bit off the pace, as are the 2 Audis, and I think there must have been a problem for the 74 car of Fjordbach and Mavlanov in that session. Fjordbach and Markussen in that session, because they didn't actually manage to get out and set a lap time in Q2. So not a good day for the ISR Audis. So those are our top 8 that are going to be going through, and there is Christopher Mies with Laurens.
Very composed and relaxed personality, Christopher Mies. Every time I've seen him, spoken to him, he's just, some drivers, when they've got a bigger dose of adrenaline coursing through their veins, so there is the Bentley being returned, and the damage to the front spoiler, you can see where it just clipped the wall on the exit, or the outside of turn 10, the entry really more to the corner than the exit. But Christopher Mies is one of those personalities and characters, just doesn't look phased or flustered. Where other drivers, you can see the tension, the adrenaline really that they've built up, and he just sort of very calm and collected.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Bentley is returned, and there is Robin Freitz. He knows that you get a point for pole position as well, so that's going to be important too. Marco Asma, meanwhile, good qualifying from him. He actually raced here in the F3 Masters in 2005, finished in 7th place, the year that it was won by Lewis Hamilton.
It's a long time ago, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
What, 2005 or 4?
2005, yeah. Did it a couple of years, Marco Asma, but 7th was his best placed finish in 2005. Went on to win British Formula 3 in 2007. Which I don't think would have had a round at Zandvoort. It was British F3, that was before they started going abroad, wasn't it? But very quick race, Marco Asma. And he will be hoping to repeat that sort of success here. But there is Norbert Siedler. All the drivers really enjoying this circuit here at Zandvoort. You say to them, what do you think of the track? And they just go, oh, love it.
Well, I think it's not just the track. I think it's Holland. I mean, just last night, for example, we were staying just outside Zandvoort in Haarlem, which is like a dormitory town to Amsterdam. And it's such a friendly. Everybody's out enjoying themselves, and they enjoy themselves in a totally friendly manner. And the biggest danger actually are those lunatics on their bicycles.
Absolutely. So we've got about 30 seconds till the final Q3 gets underway. There is the pit lane, there are the 8 cars, there's the racetrack. We're all set to go here on the beach, the Battle of the Dunes, the championship fight. There's another part of the racetrack, which is up at the Masters box, coming out of Skyvlak. And now, the pole position shootout for the final time this season gets underway here in Zandvoort. The cars will be heading out onto the track in just a couple of moments' time. Green flag is waved at the end of the pits. No one in a huge rush, 10-minute session, and we saw that it seemed as though cars weren't improving the more runs you did. It seems as though it might be the early laps that are important.
I think it's all about which tyres you've got, which tyres you've been using, and what tyres you're going to put on, or which tyres you're going to put on now for this final qualifying session, because the key of getting through was do it on the best of the rest. And then if you've got something, if you can use a new set of tyres, that will make such a difference. And I think the reason why there's no massive rush out is that whether teams will look to do 2 runs knowing that their first timed lap, and if it is on a new set of tyres, will be their best opportunity to get the best time out of their car, then I imagine that's why people are hanging back. And the realization, as a circuit, it probably is quite abrasive on tyres. Virtue of the being built amongst sand dunes, you get wind-blown sand onto the circuit, and it acts a bit like, just scuffs the tyre up a bit more than you might get on a very, very smooth surface racetrack.
That was Indy Donchi, who will be starting in 10th place, the qualifying race that's coming up later on today. We've got Marco Asma out on circuit, who, just to finish off my boring story of the 2005 F3 Masters, it was won by Hamilton. Sutton and De Grassi were 2nd and 3rd, and Marco Asma finished ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who could only manage 11th place. But also Attila Abreu was in that race as well, who's racing this weekend for the BMW Team Brazil car squad. There's Nick Katzberg, some stickers on them as he gets ready to take to the circuit.
Still a very effective partnership. There's Lamborghini, Gallardo, and it's sort of the final guys of its production. I mean, obviously superseded by the Huracan, and Ryder Engineering, who've been the developers of the Gallardo, have done a really outstanding job. And Nicky Katzberg around Zandvoort is going to be a challenge, certainly for the front row of the grid pole position. Whether that's going to be attainable or not, well, I don't think anybody will have been mentioning that to Nicky Katzberg.
As I say, that car started 3rd on the grid here last year. It wasn't the front row, it was 3rd position for Stefan Racina and Peter Cox. So the Lamborghini does have fundamental pace around Zandvoort. But here comes Marco Asma, really leaning on the SLS as he comes out of the final corner, across the line, down towards Tarzan for the first time on his flying lap. Gets on the brakes, turns it in. The Estonian, who's been racing for most of the season in the 71 car. Had a few that he's had to miss, usually alongside Alexei Vasiliev, but a new teammate this weekend in Roman Mavlinov, which means they're not actually in the Pro-Am class, because Mavlinov is classed as a silver driver.
They didn't really hook it up coming through the Hugenholz curve. And gets a strong run up the hill, the torque of the Mercedes engine flat out over the curves, then up into Schuiloch. And again, it's easy to miss the apex. You've got to almost anticipate where you want to place the car on the entry, and a bit of a shuffle on the exit. The car moving around quite a lot. There's, big effort from Marco Mazemir to try and put this car up somewhere meaningful, and that's his only car really on a flying lap, as Craig Dolby follows in the Nissan. So it is Marco Mazemir who's got that fastest first sector time.
Yep, no one else has set a first sector time yet, as he was the first man to head out of the pit lane. On the brakes now towards the chicane. Throws it, he's really pushing, gets a big old bit of air after chunking the curb on the inside line.
Yeah, just trying to shorten the line between the right and the left of the chicane. It's a tight chicane, and it's the exit really you want to make the best use of, try and get maximum drive possible. So through Ari Leyendijk, flat out.
Let's see what the lap time is then as the 71 Mercedes comes across the line. It is a 1 minute 38.5, so about 2 seconds slower than we're expecting pole position to be. Maxi Buch has gone purple in Sector 1 and Sector 2. He's about half a second up on that. So there is Roman Mavlinov, and here is Maxi Buch. 42.6 in the first sector, is a second quicker than Asma, half a second quicker in the middle sector as well, so he's already looking like being somewhere in the 36s, but will it be a sort of mid-36 that's necessary to take pole position? On board we go with the Bentley as we come towards the line. What's it going to be for Maximilian Buch? 36.506. That is a very good opening play from the Bentley. Here's Robin Freitz, slower in Sector 1, slightly slower in Sector 2. Easy for me to say as he comes towards the final two corners. This will be a mid to high 36, but will it be as quick as Maximilian Buch? There is Robin Freitz, the Dutchman, through the final corner at Arie Luyendyk, down towards the line. Is it going to be quicker than the Bentley as he comes through the timing beam now? No, second quickest, less than a tenth of a second away.
But significantly quickest in that final sector.
Yep.
So not as quick in the first two sectors as the Bentley, but eclipsed the Bentley in the final sector. So giving him some hope that the second lap, flying lap for the Audi might be capable of doing something good.
Nicky Tim, though, is quickest of anyone in the middle sector, so he is there or thereabouts when it comes to these front runners. This is the 333 Rinaldi Ferrari coming down into the chicane now. Personal best. He is there or thereabouts. It's going to be a 36. Nicky Tim ends up going third quickest, slightly slower than Robin Freitz. Dolby fourth quickest, Asma fifth quickest. And let's see what Norbert Siedler has got as he works that Ferrari. You can see his hands hacksawing at the wheel. Yeah, absolutely. Here's Marcus Winkelhock, who is still going out there, but he's 1.5 seconds down in the first sector, looking like they'll be starting in 5th place. Katzberg 6th quickest, Dolby 7th, and Marco Asma down in 8th position with that 38.5, which again was the fastest, which was the first lap he set on those new tyres. So that brings the qualifying session to an end here in Zandvoort. You can see Winkelhock is backed off. He's 3.5 seconds down now in that Phoenix Audi. So it'll be Maximilian Buch and Vincent Abril. It'll be Max Buch in particular who will be starting the race from pole position with just 7 points between them at the top of the championship. Freinz leads it, 7 points clear of Buch and Abril, but it's Buch and Abril on pole. And fantastic to have our two title protagonists front row of the grid.
It's the way it should be. I mean, it's a race now between the two teams that can win this championship. The race later on today is going to be for a maximum of 8 points for a win. It's all about getting the best of what you can get today to then look for the 25 points for the victory on Sunday.
Here's a look at the results of qualifying. Pole position for the Bentley HTP team. They take a point as well away from the leading Robin Freinz and Laurens Vanthoor, number 1 WRT Audi. It'll be Robin Freinz and his teammate for this weekend, Christopher Mies, that will start in 2nd place on the grid. Buch versus Freinz on the run down towards the first corner. Nicky Thiem will start in 3rd position. Then it'll be Norbert Siedler in the 333 Ferrari. They've still got an outside shot of winning, but it just got a little bit more outside. Marcus Winkelhock will start 5th on the grid for Phoenix Audi. Then Nick Katzberg in 6th position for the 88 Reiter Engineering Lamborghini. Walkinshaw and Dolby 7th place for the always evolving motorsport. Nissan and Marco Asma 8th position in the GT Russian Mercedes SLS. So that brings a conclusion to this qualifying session. The main race will be getting underway a little bit later on this afternoon, and we will be on air from 2 o'clock local time. It's now 20 past 11 local time, so figure it out from that. And there you can see Maximilian Buch, thumbs up to the photographers, and he is very satisfied, no doubt, with that. Robin Freinz, I think, will be happy enough with that 2nd position, but it's Buch on pole. So the final qualifying session of the 2015 Blancpain season got underway here at Zandvoort. First out was Michael Markussen in the ISR car. Jeroen Bleekemolen was looking quick in the first part of qualifying. Norbert Siedler very happy to have Bleekemolen as his teammate. Stefan Rakelmi looked strong, as did Sean Walkinshaw in the 173 always evolving motorsport Nissan, as he came down onto the brakes into the chicane. Really having to wrestle the Nissan around that tight and twisty part of the circuit. Albert von Turnen Texas only managed to get out late on in the session, and as a result didn't really set a particularly quick lap time, but I think they were just saving tyres. But then at the start of session 2, it was the 83 car of Max van Splunteren that brought out a red flag. He somehow ended up in the wall on the run up towards turn 9. When the green flag came back out, it was the number 3 car of Stefan Otelli, who couldn't quite manage to get through into the pole position shootout. It was only 9th position, and Maximilian Buch was the man who was looking very quick in the 84 HTP Bentley, and in the end he would take pole position. The car was a little unstable. Indy Donji almost made it through to Q3 in his first Blancpain Sprint Series appearance, but he'd have to settle for 10th position. The 75 car running a little bit wide, and that lost time for Philippe Salaquada on the exit of turn 10. Buch was pushing, and it was Buch who takes pole position. He will start the qualifying race from pole. He's now just 7 points off the lead of the championship that Robin Freinz has. You have to join us for the qualifying race. It's the final round of the season. It's the penultimate race of the season, the qualifying race. 2 o'clock today. See you then.